Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are about to start today's program. To welcome the presidential party, I request all of you to please stand. To arrange the proceedings, may I now invite the CEO, the Executive Secretary of the Institute of Engineers Sri Lanka, Engineer Neela Besekar, on stage.
Good evening. I cordially invite following distinguished personalities to light the traditional oil lamp, starting with Engineer Professor T.M. Pallewatta, immediate past President IESL, Engineer K.P.I.U. Dharmapala, President-elect, two past Presidents, Engineer Chula De Silva and Engineer Shavi Fernando, two family members of Dr. A.N.S. Kulasinghe, Engineer Professor Ranjit Disanayaka, Chairman Civil Engineer Sectional Committee, IESL, and Engineer Neela Besekar. Oh, sorry, I don't know, I missed our speaker, Engineer Purnada. Please remain standing. Kindly be. Now I cordially invite Engineer Professor T.M. Pallewatta, immediate past President IESL, to garland the photograph of late Engineer Dr. A.N.S. Kulasinghe. Kindly be seated. now I call upon immediate past President, Professor T.M. Pallavatta, our Speaker, Engineer Manigasekara, and Engineer Professor Disanayaka to the stage. There's a small video clip to be played now. I think special thanks should go to our engineer Manjula for this.
The engineering revolutionist, Engineer Dr. A.N.S. Kulasinghe, was born on October 26, 1919 in Madamita, Jayala. Receiving his primary education at Wadhu English Boys College, he later moved to Nigambo Moristella College and then to St. Benedict's College, Cottahena, where he completed his advanced level examination. He then went on to obtain Bachelor's of Science in Engineering at the Ceylon Technical College. Setting off as a young professional of the country, Engineer Dr. A.N.S. his engineering career in 1940 by joining the Ceylon Hydroelectric Scheme for the Norton Bridge project as a technical assistant to the chief resident engineer. In 1944, he joined the Colombo Port Commission as a junior assistant harbour engineer. He obtained the prestigious corporate member status of the Institution of Civil Engineers London in 1946, followed by the fellow membership status of both the Institution of Civil Engineers London and the Institution of Mechanical Engineers London in 1957. He was promoted as the Chief Engineer of the Colombo Ports Commission in 1963 and was later made the Port Commissioner in 1968. The Kulasinghe CPC system of pre-stressing concrete is among one of his greatest, most progressive contributions made towards modern construction technology. Engineer Kulasinghe was an avid inventor, owning a number of inventions to his name, including a 30-ton garbage recycler, concrete boats, and arch-shaped asbestos roofs, to name a few. In 1960, his invention in pre-stressed concrete went on to win the President's Prize awarded by the Institution of Engineers, India, for the best new invention. The trend-setting engineer transforming the Sri Lankan building construction industry went on to serve as the founding chairman and the general manager of the State Engineering Corporation. Some of the iconic structures designed by Engineer Kulasinghe include the Karuthara Bodhi Stupa, Colombo Port Stupa, the Planetarium, and the Mahaveli Maha Stupa. Engineer Dr. Kulasinghe was appointed as the President of the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka in 1969. In 1979, the University of Moratuwa conferred onto him the degree of Doctor of Science. Then again, he was conferred the doctoral degree in engineering by the Open University of Sri Lanka in the year 2000. Engineer Dr. Kulasinghe is the founding leadership behind many of the reputed scientific and engineering organizations in Sri Lanka, including the Sri Lanka Commission of Inventors, Central Engineering Consultancy Bureau, and the Center for National Engineering, Research and Development. For his remarkable contributions made for the advancement of local engineering and construction sector, he was accoladed by the National Honour of Vidyajothi by President J.R. Jayawardena in 1986. He was also awarded the title Deshabandu by President Chandrika Kumartunga in 2005. Engineer Dr. Kulasinghe is a living example and was a firm believer that the Sri Lankan engineers are second to none in their talents and capabilities to undertake a project of any complexity. His death at the age of 87 years in 2006 deprived Sri Lanka of one of her greatest, pioneering, most influential engineers. However, the name Vidyajothi Deshabandu, Engineer Dr. A.N.S. Kulasinghe will echo in the heart of Sri Lankan engineering community in generations to come.
By the way, I have to mention that, or I have to proudly mention that the voice what you heard is belongs to one of our members who is standing behind you. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. Thank you. Now I cordially invite our immediate past president, Professor T.M. Pallavatta, to deliver the welcome speech.
Hi everyone, Subha Sandhyaවක්. Good evening to you. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you all. Engineer Konara Vanigasekara, former Deputy General Manager of CCB, our speaker today, past presidents of the IESL, council members, relatives of late engineer Dr. N.S. Kulasinghe, CEO Executive Secretary of the IESL and the IESL staff members, ladies and gentlemen. Having a lecture to honor one of our greatest engineers of this era, Dr. N.S. Kulasinghe. In fact, Vidyajothi, Deshabandu, engineer Dr. N.S. Kulasinghe. I thank you all for being here today to take part in this lecture and bestow our gratitude and honor to late Dr. Kulasinghe. As was mentioned in the video, he was born in Udammitta in 1990, and the main significant aspect about him was his strong advocacy for the use of indigenous material, technology as well as manpower. So he was very confident that Sri Lankan engineers could undertake any engineering challenge that world could offer. So with that in mind, he went on to show that Sri Lankan engineers, through him, are second to none other in the world. To give a little bit about his early age, he has first studied at Vardua English Boys College and then has moved to Maristella College, Negombo, and thereafter has entered the St. Benedict's College, Kottahena, for his A-level studies. He has entered the Ceylon Technical College to study the BSc Engineering of the University of London, where he won the Sri Chandrasekhara Scholarship and graduated in 1936. He gained associate membership of the Institution of Civil Engineers in 1946. And in 1940, he has joined the Norton Bridge Hydropower Project as a technical assistant and later went into service at the Colombo Harbour in 1944 as a junior assistant engineer. He was concentrating on reduction of costs, innovation and utilization of local resources in his engineering endeavors at the Colombo Harbour too. His pioneering efforts in contributions are in the areas of precast concrete, pre-stressed concrete, and ferrocement both building, and also the application of shell theories in concrete as well as other structures. In 1962, he became the founder chairman and the general manager, Leyland Limited, Colombo Low-Lying Area Reclamation Board, Ceylon Tire Corporation, and also a council member of Ceylon Bureau of Standards, member of Board of Regents of Vidyajothi University, to mention a few. Having been appointed as Chief Engineer of the Colombo Port Commission in 1963, he was appointed the Commissioner of the Colombo Port Commission in 1968. He retired from the State Engineering Corporation in 1971, left the country but returned back in 1977. As a devout Buddhist, he created, designed and made it happen one of the very significant chaityas in Sri Lanka. They are the Kalutara Bodhiya, the Buddha Jayanti Chaitya at Colombo Harbour, and the Mahaveli Mahasaya in Kotmale. And also some landmark buildings in Sri Lanka like the Colombo Planetarium and the State Engineering Corporation main building. He passed away in 2006 at the age of 86. So today, apart from other things, we are also celebrating his 100th birth anniversary, which fell on the 26th, last 26th. So this is a very significant day today, or significant memorial lecture today, because it's 100th birth anniversary. So, in conclusion, I have a small aspect on me also that's connected to Dr. Kulasinghe. I happen to be the undergraduate in 1986 who got the Dr. A.N.S. Kulasinghe Award for being the best civil engineering student. So, I am also proud to be mentioned with his name. So with all that, I cordially invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Engineer Konara Vanikasekara, to deliver the memorial oration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Pandavatta. Before the speech, let me introduce Engineer Konara Vanikasekara, who was the former Deputy General Manager of CECB. After graduating from the Faculty of Engineering, University of Peradeniya, Engineer Vanikasekara commenced his engineering career in the State Engineering Corporation as a site engineer in dam site at Polgolla in 1970, where the chairman was Dr. A.N.S. Kulasinghe. His association with Dr. Kulasinghe runs for a long time, starting at the initial stage in storing some 20,000 bags of cement, restoring and using a batching plant used in Nalanda Dam some 20 years ago, repairing and using R13 and R17 rear dumpers at Polgolla site, and many other machines repaired and used at Polgolla. Mr. Vanikasekara was the site agent at Polgolla site when the dam was finally opened. He then left for Walker and Sons Corporation Limited in 1977 to be the site manager of their site at Pulmude. From there, he went to Nigeria, where he constructed roads in Ondo and Kaduna states. In 1981, he came back and joined CECB where Dr. Kulasinghe was the chairman. It has to be mentioned here that Government of Sri Lanka telescoped the construction of the Mahaveli project and arranged CECB to play an important role. In CECB, he worked in both the project, Randenigala project, infrastructure development of Army, Navy and Air Force, and the water resources development for the country, among others. In 1990, he took up an assignment with Strabag, Oman for the construction of few dams and some roads. Here his resourcefulness was tested to the maximum, and Dr. Kulasinghe's thinking and working were of immense use to him. In 1995, he came back and worked in several private engineering firms as a consultant. Over to you, dear Mr. Anigasek.
Mr. President, the Institute of Engineers, past presidents, family members of late Dr. A.N.S. Kulasinghe, fellow engineers, and ladies and gentlemen. I thank the institution for giving me this singular honor of paying tribute to a person who was the chairman starting with the State Engineering Corporation when I started engineering career, and then the Central Engineering Consultants Bureau subsequently, particularly on birth anniversary of this illustrious Sri Lankan engineer. Producing a century oration, introduction. Normal practice in the country is to say a few lines about the main subject and jump at a tangent and talk about 1 hour on a subject of his choice. I do not agree very much with this practice, and I think I can talk about Mr. Kulasinghe for a long time about his good and bad. I knew him for a long time, perhaps even before 1970. I understand that there has been a meeting at Mahaveli board, Polgolda, and the chairman has been told that according to the specifications, there has to be a fully automatic batching plant capable of printing the batch. And the chairman has said it is possible. The NCC engineers who were present when the chairman stated such a thing is possible were taken aback. Being champion in innovation, he has been having in mind about mixer at Tulluriya and repairing its frame in Nalanda graveyard. Even others who attended the meeting with chairman got to know about the machine at Tulluriya and at Nalanda only when they were asked to assemble the same. Imagine what could happen today of ordering a brand new machine from abroad with all the fringe benefits that go with it. Why this was presented at this stage was that it shows the guts of chairman to handle any problem that may come his way instead of depending on others. When the rapier crane, biggest in the island then, 90 tons, was to be brought in, Vikram P. Surya, the equipment engineer of SEC, has asked chairman if somebody will come from rapier company to install the machine. The chairman has had a look at the full height of Vikram. Vikram is a tall man, and said it is possible, it is people like you who will install the rapier and nobody will come from outside for installation. Recalls LCR. It has been the wish of the chairman to face the consequences of anything that comes with construction and not palming it to others, outsiders. This is way of building the self-confidence of local staff. As I joined SCC, I was posted to Polgolda site, where they were building a dam across Mahaveli. And what was happening was the construction of the coffer dam to enclose the concrete main dam that was going to divert water to Ukuela via Ranway. It was a case of placing few gabions about 5 tons each using Tata P&H crane, which is about 30 ton capacity, and putting earth in between, brought in the rivers with R17 and R13 rear dumpers, and repeating the process. Chairman was not happy about the progress, and I could use the first word fretting about it. Of the cover dam, but there was nothing that could be done. LCR used to visit the site frequently these days, and I had heard that Tata P&H had warning lights and alarms, but they had been disconnected, and asked LCR about this. He said, forget about them. The boss has asked me even yesterday of the gabion cable progress, and that put a stop to my inquiry. And I heard LCR was later conducting a course of lectures on safety at Ceylon Tobago. That shows how a construction job has to be undertaken. To start with, shall I say something about when I didn't know him, that Mr. Chairman, too well. He was a mighty chairman, and I was only a site engineer in one of his sites. There were some 20,000 bags of cement with 10,000 in each stores brought there some 6 months ago, perhaps when we were still in the university. Yeah? And turning them was the last thing we were interested, least we know that they had to be turned every 2 weeks to start with. Perhaps the specification had that they had to be turned the other side, and when we were trying to load them to the batching plant, the engineers and the MDB objected. There were globules in bags which we screened and removed and made cubes and was found to be okay. The MDB engineers had got down their chief engineer to tell the cheeky boys of SEC to comply with them, to comply when an advice was given by the engineer. I was laboratory engineer from SEC and was getting beaten from all sides under the batching plant when the blue galaxy appeared from the gate. I lost no time in running to him and telling him what has transpired about cement at Polgolda. He got down from the car and with a measured walked up to the batching plant, and without talking to anybody, put his hand into the bag and said, without looking at any other particular person, if anybody says the cement is bad, then I have to forget all I know about cement and learn from him. And then looked around. He said, "No. When they were imported and were lying, they were lying in tankers for months and then stored in godowns again for months. It's okay. You can refuse, but wait for my claim for delay and refusing good cement. Chief Engineer of MDB, and if I remember correct, one Mr. Stanley Fernandu, brother of Mr. Neville Fernandu of Colombo North faculty fame, who was all this time distantly looking at the cement bag with a cigarette hanging from his mouth, said, "This is very good cement, sir. If you screen and use it, it will be fine." I couldn't believe my ears. And all the cement, which gave strengths of over 3000 psi. Those days, it was in psi that we used was not the present day 30 newtons per millimeter square. Some reached even 5,000 psi. That was used for foundations of the dam. Looks all right even now and would have been waste to throw away. Next was the time when we could see from the office window into the workshop area some 6 people bringing a 10-inch diameter steel pipe for some welding work, and they rested it on the floor, as 6 were not sufficient to carry it. The time was about 9:20 AM when about 2 more people have gone for tea, and the blue galaxy again came to a halt next to the office, where from the workshop one could see. Then could see those 4 people lifting the pipe and taking it around the workshop, not knowing where to unload. That was the awe of chairman. By this time, chairman was somewhat familiar with our faces, and we had to join him in his visits round the site, with the SPM and RE in front row, and we, the site engineers, closely behind following them. They made one half circle and came to the place where the batching plant was, where the cement trailer was parked. And when chairman's eye came to rest on the cement trailer that was sent from Paliagoda Central Workshop, he asked abruptly, why is this that still there? I am sure he knew it was there, and one reason of his coming to Polgoda in a Monday morning was that Lalit Vidyajothi, the ME who was with us, the second row, said, so auditor boss said there is something wrong in it. The cement pump, and he is repairing it. Chairman's face was now red, and he shot back, from when did you start taking instructions from the boss? Get into it yourself and find out the truth of what he said. There was a manhole on the top of the cement tray bowser, and he crept into it, and he came after 20 minutes. We could hardly recognize him. Hair and eyebrows turned white with cement dust. If it is nowadays, there would have been protest for human rights groups, but thereafter there was never a case of delays in sending any vehicles sent from head office. This was time of the country going through severe foreign exchange crisis, and a dam site such as Polgoda had almost everything repaired out of material brought from graveyards. The batching plant installed there was one imported from Naranda Dam and dumped in a scrap yard. It had been repaired to such an extent that even the printing of the batch that was done was to date. This is done with the photoelectric cells in operation, and I understand this was not working properly even in the original dam, Naranda Dam. Chairman has seen to it that original operator of the batching plant, one Kothalawala, has been given employment, and her story he told me is vivid in my mind. The MDB engineers who wanted to follow the specifications to the letter were keen that the sand we got from the batching plant was not having any trace of mud. Kothalawala used to say when they put concrete in the Naranda Dam and vibrated, tortoises used to come out through the concrete. The R17 and R13 rear dampers were again brought from graveyards and repaired. The cable crane was one used at Muskelia, and there were many more. Until almost 2 years into the stage 1 of the dam, the important machinery at site were some 2 Atlas Copco air compressors, payloaders and Foxagon passenger vehicles, which were shared by the head office. We at site had to satisfy the push-started jeep removed from police. I am sure the chairman would have got the thrill of in his life seeing this working in unison. When one could find engineers running around with a plan drawn by an architect looking around for design engineer to put the reinforcement to one's own house, the chairman would not have approved such acts but puts the reinforcement himself. He is a unique engineer and unique in many sense. He is a qualified engineer in civil, mechanical and electrical engineering, whether in shell structures or construction technology or repair of a batching plant, or R17 or R13 or construction management. He would have ready answers to any problem. There would have been no difference. The problem used was one on shells. The chairman would have proceeded to find the solution himself and explain the matters to his assistant. I remember someone telling, if one goes into the port premises, one could see the various structures he has put up, mostly for the experimentation. Understand there is a duplicate of the car porches. One can see in front of the port, inside the well, inside as well. It is Mr. Kulasinghe who realized the value of priestess concrete in putting up structures here. Job may take a little longer time, but there is no headache of maintenance problems involved. It is due to his efforts. Many bridges, roof beams and telephone and electric poles one sees around today are made out of concrete. It is a pity to see the process being reversed today and the country losing millions of foreign exchange. Many, including D.L.O. Mendes, who is the author of Kulasinghe Facilitation Volume, published by IESL, goes on the elementary difference in Kulasinghe and his right hand brain. When discussing creativity, one invariably comes across the subject of split brain analysis or right brain, left brain duality. In somewhat condensed form, one can say conventional education develops left side of the brain and to some extent suppresses the creativity, which is the product of right hand side development of the brain. The Chinese refer this to yin and yang development. The attainment in human life of perfect balance between the two experiments, and today more of us use left side of the brain, indicating that we are truly half brain. Creative people like Kulasinghe use both sides of the brain. The application of priestess concrete technology in CPC received a temporary setback when the Magnell Blatant system used till then could not be used because of royalty payment problems. A less creative person would have gone around the problem, but Kulasinghe's response was typical of himself. He created his own technology. Fressinet had been a creative right brain man who worked by intuition, wrote in forward to Y. Guyon, the famous book on priestess concrete. I see in this book testimony to his ardent faith in the value and the destinies of priestessing, a testimony drawn by clear and precise intelligence, backed by powerful mathematical culture, caught up by the love of truth and clarity. Gayans is a good friend of Kulasinghe, which can be assessed in his handwritten note to Kulasinghe, which starts with the expression to my good friend A.N.S. Kulasinghe for kind reception at Colombo and his admiration of priestessing concrete, unquote. I recall an anecdote told to me by somebody in the night shifts of Amlipiti factory, that once the dredger belonging to SAC has broken down, the chairman has been behind everybody in the workshop for one whole week and got it repaired. They were all standing in a row to witness it working. The row constituted of chairman, manager ENM, the CE Paligoda, Mr. Gamanu Silva, Mr. Rajasam, and few others. A villager has come along the road walking and suddenly stopped, and this happened to be in front of chairman. Seeing the dredger pumping, he has said, see these mad fellows, they are pumping the sea now. See, how can they ever pump and finish the sea? Who has been closest has been chairman, and he did not know where to look. My first boss, Ajit Kulasinghe, needs mention here. I would say he is tip of the old block. Schneider, a Frenchman, the advisory consultant of Sogdia, the MDB head, was about the same age as Ajit, and he had what he called the hanky test. He used to rub the wet rock with his hanky, and if there are any stains of mud, he would not allow concreting. I can remember the contest between Ajit and Schneider telling this bloody mud and other telling this bloody rock. Our biggest problem would have been to survive chairman's cross-examination, and besides that, Ajit would have fitting answers for all questions. Ajit once tried to break a 2 meter cube concrete by mistake on MDB engineers. Our pleas with him only saved them from ensuring flight. One has to know the possibility of 3-inch metal falling from a height onto the body of a person. When the chairman was removed by the new regime and the new GM came, wanted to visit the Polgoda site, Ajit asked everybody using the main office to be away from it, and he himself went to Kandy. When the new GM came, only Sumana Sena, the office peon, was there, and the new GM had said, not a dog there. This was told to us by Sumana Sena, and Ajit asked him to bring a dog. He thought it was a joke, and when Ajit insisted, he brought a wild dog from the crush area. The dog, never used to being tied, started howling, and Ajit asked him to tie near the gate. When the new GM came again after Ukuela, he was met with the dog at the gate. That was Ajit, and he would have given a fitting reply if questioned. I understand the news of dog has gone to head office before the new GM over the VHF radio. He is the only boss who did not want us to work as planned. In fact, there have been times when we planned to do some concreting, and he said no. He said, let's go home and have a drink and play a game of bridge. He is such an endearing person. He is such a strong person who could withstand any amount of booze. And this itself has stood for his downfall. He has parted with the world a few years ago in Australia. I can remember a bet he has held with Siricho, the main contractor's representative, Mrs. Ingra, Yugoslavia, some time ago. His bet was to have a race to Kandy town from Polgoda in his car and Siricho in his, and beat him. As a good Samaritan, he has given Siricho the lead and started from Polgoda. Halfway, Ajit has given a hoot or two to overtake, but Siricho has not given the way. When he found Ajit has overtaken him from the wrong side and won his race. When Ajit faced the interview with Tobacco Company, he said about 3 rounds or so. Yet now it's this people like Ajit who have been very dormant people earlier, who has changed. Nothing but fair to tell a few words about them as well. When Ajit faced the interview with the company, he said about 3 rounds or so he had to face the board. He said it was wooden panelled room and he was awestruck the way the board was seated and attired. Anyway, he didn't care less, and when he was comfortable in his chair, one member has asked, "Well, Mr. Kulasinghe, we are the board and not have with you any technical things to speak of. Please tell us about yourself." Ajit for a moment was taken aback and he rejoined the conversation with the rest. Thus, in 1941, some girls from Mahamaya were having a nice time in botanical gardens. Seated somewhere, when these boys from Trinity were roaming in the same botanical gardens. When he said his father's name, which I cannot remember now, saw this girl and he said his mother's name, it was love at first sight. Few in the boat saw it coming. 1 year after that they were married, and 1 year after that I was born. This was Ajit. By this time board members were holding their stomachs and laughing so much so that there was no formality or nervousness left. They discussed very friendly manner. Then I can remember him continuing his description about himself. In 1970, I got my charter and got married. Two important events in one's life, one said. One yes, others still I am wondering. Answered back Ajit. After some time, somebody asked Mr. Kulasinghe, we do not have a complicated structure like dam at Polgol. Somebody might call you and complain there is a leak in my bathroom. And Ajit said he will ask his foreman to have a look at it. Then foreman has asked Ajit what made him to think that that he has a foreman to work with. Ajit has shot back, if I have none, I will recruit one. And that was before he joined the tobacco company. And the interview has stopped there and he was recruited. One in some 700 chartered engineers in the country. The practice of the corporation has been to release the site engineers to the design office 2 years ago to get their charter. So we too came to head office in 2 years. And a few of us was under the agreement with chairman to the ICC to do the charter in 4 years. I think it is not fair to talk only about the chairman, but also those inspired by the chairman's work. I must say one last thing, even in very briefly, before I move on to head office. Often people at the site did to expedite the work. In this instance, Mr. Siripala Kodikara, RPM, gave the leadership to the young team he had at site, getting inspiration from the chairman. If the second stage of the dam were to be started right from the beginning, that is building the coffer dam and starting the piers of the dam as per original plan, it would have taken another 4 months, whereas we were already too late. So they decided to abandon all machinery in Mahavali. Of course, this was done with calculation of risk taken in working out how long it would take for a flood to come from Kotmali to Polgolda and leaving someone in between with the vehicle to report of an impending flood, etc. Mr. Anand Perera was of immense resistance to Khodi. This was done and Polgolda came out intact, saving also with millions of rupees. Once I was doing a design for designing set of roofs and columns for Ceramics Corporation Valley. The normal span was 100 feet and two outer spans were 60 feet each. I had decided to want steel trusses for convenience in handling and concrete columns, and was at a loss to put the steel at the top of the column as they were getting congested and too close to each other. Dr. B.M.A. Balasuriya sat with me one day and worked out the details of the reinforcement. Dr. Balasuriya is one who has contributed to the original work in shear, and it is on record that Professor Neville has said Bala was his best student. It may be okay as per the code, but really I was not too happy about their two cloisters. As such, I was looking at the drawing more intently. Dr. Balasurya and Ajit Jayasinghe has been from the same batch, and Ajit Jayasinghe has been head of the design unit. Mr. Jayasinghe looked at the drawing over my shoulders and suggested a little different arrangement which was to my liking. This arrangement also facilitated easier erecting, so naturally I adopted it. I presume this is the freedom a civil engineer has to change the given data to suit his final aim without changing the final goals. This shows the brilliance of engineers at key positions of SEC. There is one more thing Ajit Jayasinghe said at a lecture. There is a practice of a wall being hung in the upper floor of a building so that at the ground floor it looks like a uniform floor cell. Once he designed a two-story building accordingly and advised the bars accordingly. When he came to inspect it again, the bars has removed the lower floor shuttering, thus giving the full load to the upper floor beam before it was set. However, as the saying goes, steel and concrete is much safer, and it has stood and building was completed safely. There was a time when the new GM taking up at CCB, when the old one has left. We had to take our tender board papers to the chairman to get the approval, and once I asked Santajaratha to visit and Vithanage to bring some papers on Ranjigana to chairman. While going to drawings, he asked if the roofs of the buildings were not designed with lesser timber that he used to tell us the whole time. Vithanage, who was not aware of this, looking at the drawing, just said, "No sir, it is not possible." The chairman got very angry. Chairman is fairly fair, and his color changed from fair to red and to black, to all colors of the rainbow. That was the end of the tender board meeting, and he blackguarded us, GM and me, for bringing them for the tender board meeting. However, I was more worried if the chairman was coming to a heart attack. Strangely, even the contractors quoted higher price when roofs with lesser timber was advised. GM explained later that they themselves don't understand the roof arrangements and therefore quote higher, or their supervisor takes a long time to finish these buildings. At one stage, when I came back from doing my Nigerian stint, I had no doubt of being taken to CB. Mr. Nadrasa has been the CP of both and project, and I was a PE contracts. At one stage, it was only 3 weeks to open the powerhouse with the president of the country, and we were to carry out an inspection of the powerhouse. To our amazement, we found that the crane beams brought to the site did not contain the furthest away post tension wire. This means they are not suitable to be erected due to safety. Mr. Nadrasa, who was the head of the division, was wondering what to do and put the question to everybody present. It was only I who gave in a solution, that is to cut a groove in the bottom of the crane beam and put the wire there. This did not conform to any code, and codes would have allowed for corrosion, but Mr. Nadrasa accepted it and took the responsibility for it. He said the chairman would approve it. He said without the experience I had at SEC, this would not have been possible, and also also said anybody in CCP would not come up with that solution. I haven't heard of any commotion coming from both ends of the side, so it has stood for some 35 years. That is to me coming from an experienced engineer like Mr. Rasa is the best compliment I have got from a boss. When Mr. Rasa left the services of the bureau, who was in charge at both and was one Mr. Kengadharan. And he has had an eternal fight with one union man, Sagar Maitripala, who was the head of the UNP union. One day when I came to work, Kenga has given me several calls to find that Sagar has flouted the circular he has put the earlier evening. Kenga asked me either transfer him or Sagar out of the site. I asked him to hang on and went to the GM, who said nobody can be transferred without an inquiry. I told him I will handle it my way, thinking of meeting the chairman. When I came out, I saw the name board of Mr. Herman Gunratne, who was the planter and brought in by Mr. Gandhi Sanayakar. Mr. Nadrasa has told the engineers to boycott him as he was not a qualified person. Anyway, he said he liked him as he liked his temperaments. So I went to his room, who welcomed me, and when I told him the story, he immediately called the radio room and asked Sagar to be interdicted and removed from site. I saw stars and asked him to verify if what I said was right. He said that I am senior enough, an engineer, and there is no need to verify matters. Sagar was under interdiction for almost 1 year, and by the time Kenga has finished site. Once one Neil Gamini Herath came to meet me to get the signature of the chairman for his chartering ICE Sri Lanka. Neil worked in my section at Polgolla. He was a man who could have handled all the full works, and he was so good. I took him to the chairman with trepidation and told him that Neil worked with me at Polgolla and he was good. Without butting an eyelid, he signed Neil's papers. By mistake, he addressed them to ICE London. That was the quality of the chairman. At one stage, I was looking after the offshore works, and one day chairman's steno was going on leave. Personnel manager wanted to put steno in the offshore works, who was next senior steno to take care of chairman's work, and asked me about it. I said it is not a wise thing to change things without agreement of the foreigners in the section. I don't know how personnel officer broke the news of the chairman, but I was informed that the chairman wanted to see me at 2 p.m. the next day. I knew it was a grave situation and requested GM to intervene. He politely declined. Perhaps he did not wish chairman blackguarded me in his presence, or he felt that he is unable to stop me getting blackguarded by the chairman. Anyway, when I met him at 2 p.m., he addressed me by full name and asked me why I did not agree for temporary arrangement. He said, "So these white fellows are bigger to you than me." I decided to tell all but the truth. I said it was chairman who said at the time of the opening of this section to make sure that if possible we should one day handle this work ourselves, and if we change staff without getting their approval, they might not be happy and the chairman's original target may not come true. He changed immediately and asked me to sit down and started addressing me in the usual manner. I think he forgot that immediately, and I don't think he allowed this to come into any of his future decisions. Very soon afterwards, I took up an assignment in Starbuck Oman, a German company, and I had a very uphill task of completing a dam which was far too behind the program. Only one third of the dam completed with lapse of 2/3 of the time allowed. I realized this immediately and put a revised proposal to complete the works using a sliding shutter, using which I have never done in my life. I have only seen one working at Randanigada. If I went wrong, I would have been my death warrant, as Starbuck would have sent me home immediately. It turned out to be okay, although it was very risky, and chairman's working thinking came very handy to me. Though I left the services of bureau, I was in touch with chairman. At Ambilipitiya, there was a priest who was well known over the country, one Venerable Sobita. I was generally friendly with him, and he was putting up a 4-story dharmasala, and realized he was trying to do it in the traditional way, beam and slab. I didn't reveal it to him. I didn't reveal to him what I had in mind, but told him to meet the chairman who will tell him to save the millions in the process. I told chairman about him. When he met chairman, he has treated him well and told him about the concrete beams. He had immediately adapted. In the process, he has saved some 250,000 per floor. The chairman one day gave me some advice about workmen. He said generally Sinhalese are good carpenters, Tamils are good masons, and Muslims are good ironmongers. The unfortunate thing is that advice was received only during last stages of my career. Even at 80, his handwriting was clear and beautiful, and anybody could identify what he was written for typing. A little known secret about Kulasinghe was good in his tabla. It is rumored that Leonardo da Vinci and Albert Einstein are all good in their respective instruments, and with the reputation of both sides of the brains working in unison. It has been stated in Mr. Kulasinghe's case, the development of left side of the brain did not take at the expense of suppressing the right side. Otherwise, creative ability like this wouldn't have left in him while being a genius in the field of engineering. When thinking about him, what comes to my mind is the description written by somebody, unfortunately forgotten the name, and copied to me by with some changes. The article "Youth" appeared to have been written him in mind. Quote, "Youth is not a stage of life, it is a state of mind. It is not a matter of rose cheeks, red lips and supple knees. It's a matter of will, vigor of emotions and quality of imagination. It is the freshness of deep springs of life. Youth means temperamental predominance of courage over timidity, of adventure over love of ease. This often exists in a man of 60 more than a boy of 16. Nobody grows old by the number of years. We grow old by deserting our ideals. Years may wrinkle skin, but to give up enthusiasm wrinkles soul. Worry, fear, self-distrust bores heart and turns spirit back to dust. Whether 60 or 16, there is in every human being's heart, the love of wonder, the unfailing childlike attitude of what's next in the game of living. In the center of your heart and that of mine, there is a wireless station. So long as it receives messages of beauty, hope, cheer, courage and power from other men and from infinite, so long are you young. When the veils are down and your spirit is covered with snows of cynicism and ice of pessimism, then you are grown old, even at 20. But as long as your aerials are up to catch waves of optimism, there is hope you may die young at 80. Unquote. This was sent to him with my best wishes on his last birthday, and I am sure he would have been very happy to receive this. Men whom the lust of office did not kill, men whom the spoils of office did not buy, men who had opinions and a will, men who loved honor, men who did not lie. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anikasekara, for sharing a valuable experience you had with Dr. Kulasinghe. It will be very much important for especially our young engineers as well. Now I cordially invite our immediate past president, Professor Pallewatta, to give away the token of appreciation to Mr. Vidyajothi. Thank you very much, Professor Pallewatta. And to wind up the session, I cordially invite Professor Ranjit Disanayaka, the chairman of the Civil Engineering Section Committee, to deliver the vote of.
Thank you, Neil. Good evening, everyone. Engineer Konara Vangasekara, the guest orator of 13th Deshabandu Engineer Dr. A.N.S. Kulasinghe Memorial Oration, immediate past president of the Institute of Engineers, Engineer Professor T.M. Pallewatta, and past presidents, members, Chairman Mr. CECB, Mr. P. Tilaka, CEO, Engineer Neil Abe Sekara, family members of the Dr. Engineer Kulasinghe, others. I am privileged to deliver the vote of thanks at this very important event celebrating the man who contributed to the field of engineering in Sri Lanka. On behalf of everyone here at the ESL, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our guest orator for the day, Engineer Konara Vangasekara. We are extremely grateful to you, sir, for the being here and delivering this memorial oration. I would like to also thank the family members of the Engineer Dr. Kulasinghe who are present here today. On behalf of the family of IESL, I would like to express my gratitude to you for being here as Honor Engineer Dr. Kulasinghe. I would like to especially thank our immediate past president, Engineer Professor T.M. Pallewatta, for supporting and given to this event, and also the present president, Engineer Professor S.B. Vidyajothi, he is not here today, for his support. I would like to thank the members of the IESL who are involved in the organizing this event. We are thankful to the co-members of the team, including Engineer Manjula, for arranging everything. For the recommendation and other things received from the CECB, I really appreciate. As this is the 100th years of the Dr. Kulasinghe's birthday, we IESL has decided to upgrade the Engineer Kulasinghe Memorial from this next year. And also, we have discussed with some of the pioneer organizations in this country, especially the INSEE came up with the idea to start the concrete research work dedicated to Dr. Kulasinghe. That of course they are going to open up their new concrete lab 31st. Immediately they would like to start some work, allocate some of the work that was done by the Dr. Kulasinghe. Before winding up, I would like to invite you for the fellowship at the members lounge. And finally, I would like to thank for everyone for being here this evening. Thank you. Have a good night.